Hey, what's up everyone? So today we're gonna go over basically the very basic functions of how to create a menu and what that kind of looks like. So I'm gonna use a terminal, but this is what you're gonna want to start out with. Is just a normal terminal or some kind of trigger, and you're also gonna want to two script brains. We'll kind of get into why you need those later, but just for this action, we're gonna put this script brain here, and we're gonna do a kind of a nice little menu loadout and just kind of set that up for you. So let's go into how to create a menu and just the objects nodes that you'll need for that. And so this tutorial already assumes that you kind of know the basic functions of the differences between variables and things like that. So if you haven't already, definitely go watch one of my videos on explaining that. But let me just get everything set up real quick, and then we'll build it kind of out one by one. And so we don't really need the set ones because we're going to be setting it on gameplay start. So we don't need the set declare menu variables or anything like that. We do need on gameplay start, and then we do need, where is it? Not this one. And there's a ton of different things too that you guys can do with menus, but they're all mainly going to be in the UI interface. And so there's a lot here too. Like you'll see there's set menu properties and things like that. When we set this up, we're going to always use on gameplay start to build out the menus. The only time that you would need these is a little bit more advanced. So like if you were wanting to change any property inside the menu after it's already been set, if that makes sense. So but we're going to do this, and we're going to grab that. We're going to grab add item menu. So on gameplay start, we're just going to name this menu test, right? And we're going to name this one menu test as well. And we're going to set, so all of your menus should always be set to global. Oh, that's not a menu. There we go. They should always be set to global. And then we're going to do, declare and get for menu items as well. So we're going to do menu item, or just do item 1. And we'll do this to item 1. So you might be thinking, on gameplay start, we need to grab the menu, right? So that's correct. So once we create the menu, then we're going to grab the menu that's created. And on gameplay start, we're then going to add items to the menu itself. And so we need to declare the menu items as well as all separate, entities, or however you want to look at it. And then once we're in here, we're actually going to go to basic variables. So I know in the UI setting, there's a lot of different, like creating properties for the item itself. We don't actually need any of these to start. We only need the menu item. And then if you want a title or description, we need to plug this in as well. So the top one here is going to be the title. The bottom one is going to be the description. And of course, we want to make sure that we enable, right, what this is going to be. And so we declare it. And we can actually put this kind of like behind this. So we're declaring it on gameplay start. This will automatically happen, so you don't have to worry about it. And we're going to set this item, because we're not going to call this item to any other script brain. So we're just going to set this item to local. And then we'll just give this a, alien 1, just a neat little title there. I'll even give it a description too for you guys so that you guys can kind of see, we'll do description 5. Right, so this should just have this is the title, and then this is the description. And we're only going to do one item, and then we're going to kind of move from there. So we'll put this down here, kind of move this over a little bit, organize it a little bit. And then we want it to where whenever the player interacts with this terminal right here, it's going to pull that menu up. So we need to interact with that menu, or with that terminal, right? And we're going to do here to here. So it's going to be the player. So whenever the player acts with this menu right here that we've already made, it should just make it visible to the player. So we're going to create a couple of different options as well. So first off, right, we're going to do, this is going to be option 1. And then we're going to create a bunch of blanks. So this is actually a little bit easier. And we're just going to name this blank. And so this item right here that we made will only be for this menu. However, blanks we're going to use for multiple things. So we're going to use blanks constantly in other menus as well. So we're just going to name the blank item, which is just going to be nothing, right? So we don't want anything in that spot. And so we're going to delete this and we're just going to declare it. And we're going to declare that menu item all the way up to 8. So what we actually need to do is we need to swap these, because we want blank to be made first all the way up to item 8, right? So it's actually going to create 8 empty slots with nothing in it. And then we're going to set this to global because we want those 8 slots for this. And then we might actually want to call upon it if we make a second menu. And then we're going to set, after those slots are made, then we're going to set option 1 to this local one. And then we're going to copy this again and paste it. And so we have option 1, which is going to have that. And then we'll just do option, like, let's say 4 for this menu. And you don't have to have a blank if your menu for this is only going to have a couple of different things, but I'll show you what the blank does. So you can cut that out if you don't need it. And we're going to name this item 2, sorry, because realistically it's going to be the second item that's in there. And then the blanks are just going to be kind of there. And then this one's going to say current objective, 1 out of 1. And then it's going to have a different description and everything for us. So doesn't really, actually, we'll just cut the description out for that one. And then let's say we want to make another item. So we'll just duplicate it again. If you can, try to stay away from duplications, especially when they are declare nodes and things like that. Anything with an identifier, you want to kind of stay away from duplicating, especially on like your main maps and stuff like that. I'm just going to do that because it's a little quicker, and this is just a tutorial map, so I don't really care too much about it in the future. It's not like I'm going to post it somewhere. And then for the third item, we're just going to have a message for the description. So we've got this, and then it should, on the object interacted, it should open the menu test, right? And then the second the menu test is created on gameplay start, it's going to make 8 empty slots. And then in slot 1, 4, and we'll do 7, there's going to be items, right? So item 1, 2, and 3, and they'll have their own descriptions. We do have to, in the menu item, give them kind of like a icon. And so this node alone kind of gives it all the properties that you need, which is why we can ignore the other properties that are in the UI interface. So that node alone does all of this right here, just with this node. So this is more important. You don't have to worry about setting everything. So if we go into the testing stage real quick, right, should just load up. And then if we go to activate, we notice here that we have basically all 8 slots are empty because we created them beforehand. And then we've got slot 2 here, which is alien, right? So it's got the description and the title. And then we've got slot 4, I believe, which is just the title. And so that's kind of how you create a menu. Now you'll notice that whenever I click on the options themselves, nothing happens, right? So we have to create an action afterwards, which is going to be pretty easy. That's why we have the next script brain here. So the reason that we have a different script brain is because what we're going to do is we're going to set all events for when an item is selected into the same script brain. So when, on item chosen in any menu, you're going to need this, which is why we set every single menu to global for now. And then you're going to need trigger custom global event, and you're going to need to get on custom global event, you're also going to need a branch node. So we're going to grab a logic branch right here. And then we're going to grab a compare right here. And so what we're actually comparing is the menu itself. Sorry, not a compare. You need to compare menu. Not items either. We're going to go to compare menu. So if you go to the menu itself, if we do the condition here, we're just simply going to compare the menu. So you do have to get, get menu again. So it's going to be this menu that we want to open. Go back to our older brain and grab that real quick. And then we're going to set the value to this. So when the player interacts, whenever a player selects an option, it's going to run this node. And the reason we have to funnel everything into one brain is because we're not able to, unless they fix it, we're not able to have multiple of these nodes. So we have to kind of funnel a branch, and what you're going to want to do is just every single time you have a different menu, you're going to have to create a whole nother one. So just to show you guys real quick kind of what that looks like. So you're going to compare, and then you're going to bring your next menu over, you're going to link it to that, wherever that goes, and then on true, and then you'll branch the next one to just like this. So you'll create kind of like a spiral down, and then we're going to name this menu 1 item selected. You can name these whatever you want, but we're going to copy this and paste it so that both of these, look the same. And then what we'll do is we will actually funnel a couple of different info into this trigger. So the things that we want to funnel is, if this menu is selected, we're going to funnel the index number, which is the item that's chosen from that menu, into the number variable, and then the player, obviously we want the object, so the player into the object menu. And then we're going to go back to our first menu here, and we're going to grab that custom event node. And now we're going to say, we're going to compare the menu items chosen, or what we could do is numbers. So you could do either one. Typically I do the numbers option just because it's a little easier for me. It just makes more sense, and then I can keep this completely separate from over here, so I'm not reusing anything. But I'll show you both here. So if we do options, you just funnel in the number, which is the index, which is chosen from the other brain, and then you would do 1. So if option 1 is chosen, right, or option 2 in our case, because 2 is technically our first option, or our first item, then this is going to happen. And then if option 4 is chosen, right, duplicate, compare, then this is going to happen. And so you want to do a number variable, or a compare to the number, right, to the menu index every single time, because if we have, let's say there's only 2 options, right, even if we didn't have an empty brain, so if we just delete this so that I can show you guys real quick, and we just do option 1 and option 2, even if we go into this and we're looking at the menu and it's only got top and down, so if I select top, then technically I did not select option 1, I selected option 2. And so it works a little bit different if you have the reason you want to do if compare to option 1 or if compare to option 2 is because if there is no compare for option 2, then obviously they selected the other option. So for this, right, since we only have 2 options here, we can do, if selected 1, then do something, and then if not, then do something else. But if you have more than 2 options, so if true or if false, if you have more than 2 options and you have 3, right, then technically, and this is just pretty basic math, technically if we do, oh, well, they didn't select option 1, so this happens, but they selected 2 or 3, then technically if it equals to 2, or if it equals to false, so if it's 3, then this would happen. So it does matter on having each compare, right, for the index. But this is a very basic one. So, and then after this, so after true, you would just have whatever is happening happen to the player. So let's say if we wanted to, you know, on option 1 chosen, we wanted to just give the player a weapon, we would just go to inventory and we do give player new weapon. And we're going to tie this into the object, right? Because the object is going to be the player that's interacting with said node. And we're just going to do an evo. And then we're going to replace all. And we're going to turn the wait until completion off. So now whenever I select option number 1, right, it should just give me an evo. And it's just going to replace everything. And then if I select option 2, it doesn't do anything because there's nothing, you know, there. But every time I select one, it's going to do it. So this is how you create a menu. Obviously, you can get pretty creative with how many menus you have and whatnot, and kind of like what that looks like. So just to kind of run it back real quick. So on gameplay start, you're going to add menus or add items to the menu that you create. And then if you want it to be interacted, you just need on object interacted to show the menu to the player. And then whenever an item is selected, remember you need everything to funnel through here. So when an item is selected on any menu, you want to branch it to each and every single individual menu. And then you're going to trigger a custom event global for the player and for the number. And this is going to cycle back to, you know, whatever menu you have or script brain menu you have. And then this is going to funnel to this, to what option they chose. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do enjoy, please like and subscribe and give it a comment if you have any questions or need anything. Thank you so much.